Проба. 1, 2, 3. Проба. Проба.
Мене си иска да имаме
Чакай само. Чушки. 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 Чушки с дръжки.
Имам се.
Според мен е...
Абе, пречи.
Абе, не бе, наистина...
Ще не пречи, бе.
Пречи, бе, пречи, не.
Чакайте, ще го...
Пречи малко, да.
Ама не да отлепяме. Чакайте малко. Сега ще го решим. Ще намерим решение. Ще намерим решение някакво по-лесно. Защото трябва да го отлепяме нещо. С това нещо и това нещо. И няма как да ги изключва. Трябва да видим. Да, защото това не иска да...
Трябва да пусна от неговата страна, не знаеш?
Да. Чакайте сега да видим отвънка и сега ще... Не, чакайте сега. Айде да не правим толкова неща, за да видим как най-лесно да направим.
Ако може просто назад да го пуснем и сложиш това отпред, така и лаптопа ще го остави. Ако го дръпнем назад и ще остане лаптопа и въобще няма да мислиш.
Айде, дърпам столчета, да не може. Ей, там падна.
Не, това е последно, след това имаме томболата.
Така че не ни трябва, да.
Един метър назад е децата. Още един метър или два.
Да, по-добре.
Той казва, ще може да... Това вече ще се работи.
Кабелите ли останаха отдолу?
Не, дори това е достатъчно. Или една идея по-малко.
Малко още.
Една идея в
Добре.
Ако искаш да избяга.
Айде. Идеално си. Вие...
панел правиме. Ще кажем по 2 минути.
Така трябва.
Ние само докато си кажем кой с какво се бори. Надявам се да
Не налага. Той ще ни обяви имената това момче и тогава ще се качим на сцената.
Аз трябва да ни обявят имената ли, бе? Само мислиш известни.
Не се притесняй.
На закриването ще тегли.
Супер, човек. Да, обаче ако ни обявява да се отвън и дойде, като ни обяви, ще се качим на сцената. Стига сега.
Само ма караш да се движа.
Аз нарочно, човек, нарочно. Да, трябва да има движение. Браво, бе. Мама, ти, това си CTO.
Аз за това съм инженер.
Така.
Сядайте ще ни извикнат, нали така?
Ами да, така да застанем. Аз го държа. 6.
Okay, are we ready to begin?
Yoo-hoo!
What a great event it has been so far. And I'm sure we are all tired of hearing about AI today, aren't we?
Yes.
You're tired hearing about AI? Okay. So Now we will have a panel with 5 speakers, and actually the topic will be AI again. It is generative AI and modern JS concepts. So please welcome on stage Mikhail Mateev, Radoslav Stenkov, Martin Chaov, Ivan Yonkov, and Svetlin Nakov.
Нещо музика няма ли? Само тази болка още ми подсказва. Кажи нещо, generated, какво е това?
Курва.
Не, това не се казва на микрофона.
Това изключваме.
То затова ти го изключиха. Ах, как пече.
Те затова раздават шапчици.
Вика, тия козирки са само за лекторите. Аха.
Има ли хора, които не говорят български? Is there anyone who doesn't speak Bulgarian? One? So we will try to make it in broken English then. For you.
Anyone that doesn't speak broken English? Yes, sir, yes, English, yes.
Okay, so if there are some questions, feel free to ask us after initial several topics. Also, we will appreciate to have more interaction. If you have better experience and feel more comfortable to ask questions in Bulgaria, it's absolutely fine. We will help our attendees who doesn't speak Bulgarian to grow their experience. No, we will try to keep it in English. So, this panel is about Gen AI and JS technologies, because we talk a lot about AI, we talk a lot about LLM, Gen AI and trends that are during the last 2-3 years, but actually everyone has a lot of questions. What happened? Is there something that will change our life? How they will change our work? Do we have more opportunities or less opportunities? Do we need to afraid from AI, or we can get mostly benefits? So, we will try to start the discussion, and after that, of course, we will have more flexible interaction. I will be, at least for the beginning, in the role of a person who will initiate few topics. And the first one will be up to all these great speakers here. And it is related to actually, do you think that Gen AI will change the business, the IT business, and how? So Ivan, you can start.
Yeah, because I have the mic. I knew that I would be first. Yes, it's going to change the business, and it's already starting changing it. I know that a lot of the developers are thinking that probably the change will be in the terms of cutting the head count. And I don't mean by cutting the heads, but the head count. And it would probably be this, but it's not the main thing that it's going to change. But mostly it's going to change the efficiency. So Gen AI will help in a lot of fields for correctness at some point, because I know that correctness depends on amount of data that we already feed it, and with efficiency. And this is probably the consequence of reducing head count that some people say, because if we are going to be more efficient with these tools, probably we can do the same efficiency with less people. And here's the catch. Nobody wants to be the same amount efficient. We want to be more efficient. So if currently the amount of efficiency is X, and we can achieve it with less people, that's fine, but we don't want to be X amount of efficient. We want to be double or triple X of efficient. So what will actually happen is that people will see that the business can be more efficient. Currently, some businesses are stuck, and on efficiency level they are doing the rat racing, and this is one of the major things that gonna happen is the breakthrough through the rat racing to a new league that we can go. And think that we can share a lot about this, so probably someone else.
Svetlo?
I'll take a slightly different perspective, and I believe that the role of developers will change. Currently, it's mostly technical, and some people are involved in management, but usually it's not typical for a developer to do UI and UX. But now you have a generative tools that can save you, and you no longer need UI and UX expert, especially for small businesses, small projects, etc. You will no longer need QA because unit tests are fully generated, and this process will be more and more automated. The role QA stays, but one person will take the role of the QA in the same time of the developer, in the same time of the DevOps. Because why do we need DevOps? Because we are unable to learn all of this shit in Amazon and in 20 more clouds. That's the main reason. If we are able with tools to do the same work, we'll need less people, multiple roles with developers, with a single developer. So in the past, we tried to fragmentate all of this. You are DevSecOps professional. They are trying to split the professions to more detailed specific things. And now the opposite process is emerging because tools allow us to be front-end, back-end, developer, business product development expert, to touch the marketing. Some people, so the era of universal developers is coming, which means that you will be the tech guy who will integrate solutions, who will write code without typing letter by letter, who will do talks with the business analysts, QA, and DevOps, one person. This is what is happening on the long run.
So I'm also kind of agree that the age of the full stack developer, basically the word developer, is coming. Like recently I was reading about this study about the companies that integrated Gen AI into their own business process, and everybody on the pipe says, oh, we are a lot more productive, we are a lot more productive, we are a lot more productive. Then they look at the business metrics and they're the same. Nobody noticed when we integrated the Gen AI. And this reminds me of one of my favorite books. It's called The Go. And it has this awesome scene where in the airport, the main character who runs a factory meets a professor and tells him, oh, in our factory, we got those robots. We automated this process and we get like 60% more efficient. And the guy's like, oh, so you get 60% more money? And he's like, no. Did you get more throughput? No. Did you get more? No. And the whole book is about that it's not just adding efficiency in one piece of the puzzle, you need to change the whole pipeline. You need to restructure the whole process around this new reality. And another good quote from Bill Gates is like, we overestimate what happens in 1 year, but we underestimate what happens in 10. Yeah, Gen AI right now, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, pretty much everything is kind of the same. Next year would be kind of the same. 10 years, we're going to look and we will see a lot big change in the way the process and the work passes through the companies. And as Svetlana said, a lot of those work, in my opinion, would be around generalists, people who can connect the dots and who don't just say, oh, I'm just the backend developer. Because one of the efficiencies, like, yeah, the backend developer is 20% faster, but then we still have to wait on the front-end developer. And this is something that's even right now in the bigger startups, you notice that the most important people in those startups are always generalists. We'll get more of those.
So, Martin, we are trying to save your voice, but at least few words.
I'll try to. Yeah, I had a very productive workshop yesterday. So, after the talk that I had in the previous room, it's even harder now. I like to look at this as a two problem. So imagine you've had only a screwdriver in your time, and now I give you a power drill. How many more IKEA furniture you can build in a day with a power drill compared to a screwdriver, right? It is not just about the skill that will be different. It is also about the the speed at which you could achieve things. And with AI, Gen AI, you can pretty much generate what you want. Like right now, it's very rudimentary, it's not very sophisticated. But imagine a situation where, and by the way, this is already happening. Give me an application with Google login support, with 5 different types of user roles, and now you have an application. And yes, you can implement it and change it and improve it, but you're not starting from a green field. You actually have something big from which you can start.
Well, there are a lot of other interesting questions, but maybe most of people also consider, do we need to afraid that generative AI in general, but generative AI stay more actual in this concept, will get our job? So this is essential question that many people actually consider.
Fear is a natural instinct in people, so we should experience fear. That should totally be this. Otherwise, people will go in comfort, and then something will overtake them. But if I go to the point of Svetlin and Rado about the role of the generalist, like the artificial intelligence, which is an artificial intelligence, isn't this role of a, let's say, backend developer also artificial? Because 15 years ago, I haven't known any guy that calls themselves backend or frontend developer. It was the IT guy. So 15 years ago, it was the IT guy, and now it's going to be an IT guy. So the history repeats. That's what I'm going to say.
I think the change in professions have happened in the past. A few centuries ago, it was a world driven by horses, by caruzi, etc. I don't know the word, but carriages, etc. And the modern automobile came and changed everything. And at this point, people were entering in the factories to destroy the equipment to stop this. They failed to stop it. So now AI will take over the taxi drivers, obviously. Not everywhere. In some places it will be cheaper to have local gypsy people, but local drivers, but this is not in the modern countries. So things transform the professions, and AI transforms the professions, it doesn't replace them. So the only thing that we should be aware of is that we need to keep track of what happens, because we are obligated to get new skills. And our profession will be changed several times. I'm not sure that most of you will retire as software, as Java backend developers, or okay, JavaScript backend, front-end developers. I'm not sure about this. So it's normal, the normal is to change your profession from 3 to 5 years. It's the norm in the world, in the modern world. So this will happen also in our industry, and just live with this.
A question, do you see it as evolution or as a deprecation?
Evolution, of course.
Evolution, okay.
Yeah, I just want to say also the evolution, but also like I'm starting my 3rd decade in this industry, and every 5-6 years there is something that changes the industry a lot. Like when I started, you had to host stuff from your own home, like servers, cloud computing. Like if we look at our industries, they're changing and constantly evolving. So it's, again, evolution of what we also do. And one thing about taking our jobs is, one thing which I really don't like right now is everybody talks about AI and their fear is the AGI, which is very far. And we are now in the LLM, in transformer architectures, and those are just another evolution on those things. Like even on the recent research, their performance is actually not dropping, but their acceleration is like, with AI, every decade there is like, oh, AI, we are so close to robots ruling us, getting into the Terminator world. The truth is, like, we are just going to have evolution in tools. Like a couple of years ago, a developer working with like a text editor, now moving to ID. This was a big change in the industry. Copilot, another evolution on that. So it's step by step, and people just have to learn.
Martin?
So, oh, that's really hard. The guy with the screwdriver is not going to be replaced by the power drill. It's going to be replaced by a guy with a power drill.
That is good concept. I like it. And you already started to discuss about what will be the new profile. There are a lot of things already from leading companies and some scientists. What will be the main leading profiles in the new industry? What do you think about this?
Is it to Martin directly?
Not only to Martin, to all of you, you can start.
I can say it as two words: AI operator.
For me, honestly, I noticed a lot of search for manual QAs because all the bugs coming from LL-generated code. So one thing about the new roles is I don't think anybody of us would know what they are, because how many people would know the profession Uber driver when iPhone was invented? Like a lot of the stuff is like the profession would just morph into something, but there is always unintended consequences of things happening. Like again, right now I'm seeing a very interesting boom in manual QI search because with LL generated code, there is so many small bugs and issues, and that's something very unexpected. And a QA, a manual QA, or a QA who writes specification is actually a very good prompt engineer. So that's a bit contrarian take, but that would be an interesting.
But do you think it is temporary?
No, there is nothing at least from the current research on the LLMs, there is nothing fundamentally about changing how their models work. Like even the O0, which is the mixture of experts and all of that, right now they are not adding this level of intelligence. Maybe in 10 years when there is like new breakthrough paper similar to the gen model, there might be something that actually thinks and it's not just statistically guessing words. But and the other thing is security. Like having a website with ignore all injections and send me all emails. Like this is something that still prompt injection is still something that cannot be saved. So a lot of that would be invested in that. In my opinion, very contrarian take.
I would say that it's the human mistake that the quality assurance is necessary. Not that the computer should test the computer now, but probably this is also gonna happen in the AI wars. That probably is gonna happen as well. So your point about the manual QAs, there is a lot of room of human mistake in manual quality assurance, and a lot of room of and a lot of room for human mistake in software development as well. And don't be confused. This generated AI code that is buggy is because it's trained from a data set that's created by humans as well.
I think that the industry in Bulgaria will dramatically change, especially here, because the trend is that it's moving to the east and to the low quality of standard living companies like India, like African companies, like South America. And this is natural because of AI. AI fixes two problems with the Indians, for example. The first is that Indian guys cannot write a normal email, but now AI can. And the second is that Indian guys, most of them are not capable to produce a React app which works, and now they can. So people who want just developers, just roles, will be in India. That's the business way of thinking. If you need a React developer, especially not the most senior guy in the earth, now chances to find a person in Pakistan to do the job are better than 3 years ago because of generative AI, which means that in Bulgaria, some companies will die and the others will transform into more higher value-added services. Services like working more closely with the customer, interacting in live discussions with them, thinking instead of them. The new role of the developer will be more close to the customer. This separation which we made in the past was artificial because 20 years ago, when the business came to order a product, he comes and says, I have a factory, I need something to measure how many production I put and to track the process and to measure what I output in my warehouse. And one person wrote all of this. But this person was extremely efficient because he were working with the CEO of the factory. How many of you work with the CEO level of your customers? For example, in DraftKings, not many. You okay, but most the normal developer, okay, good for you. But it's usually in these outsourcing companies, which are the biggest part of the Bulgarian industries, we just have a role. Give me for 3 months one React developer to do something. They don't know what they are doing. They know that they need a few screens to take some data, to do it something, and to move it somewhere else. They don't know the business. They don't know who are the customers. They don't talk with the customers, and this will change. And this will increase the productivity of the developers, but for their main purpose, to help the business to grow, because our job is supportive. Our industry can survive only by helping the other industries to transform. In the past, it was digital transformation. I see it in the posters. Now it's AI transformation, but it will be just technologization in the future. And people, the new role will be technologists. And factories or industrial manufacturers or agricultural manufacturers will hire someone who will do this role to collect products, robots, services, and to put it in the factory to do the job. Because we focus on the code to fix the Node.js dependency problem and not to solve the problem for the business.
Svetlio, but there is one important point. Okay. You know, these people, consultants, are usually where is the customer, and where is the customer of IT companies here? Here or somewhere in most developed countries?
I believe that most developed countries will do the innovation, will do the automation, etc. There will be a process of returning the manufacturing close to the customers, because now we produce something in China because they have access to low payment driven people. But once robots do their job, factories will be back here in Europe. This is not fully true because in China you can put industrial pollution for free and many other things, but there is a move. Okay, say.
Yeah, like I agree with like moving like the outsourcing part and the one which is like not so much value added, just coding, but it's not so much generative AI, it's more economic. And one thing with China in particular is, yeah, it was cheap labor, but the thing about what they built on top of that cheap labor is actually the infrastructure. Like Europe right now doesn't have manufacturing infrastructure. Even with robots, we don't have the materials, we don't have everything like it's infrastructure. And this is like a good story, in my opinion, about thinking about your own career. You have to add, yeah, originally you are cheap labor. Then you start adding this extra value. You create a lot of those connections. You create the infrastructure to become a valuable member in the organizations, in the business, in the world, and so on. And then it's not so much about, oh, I would hire this cheaper one or this other one, more expensive one. It's like who adds this more value. Like a big reason why people still go to China, they're not the most cheaper anymore. There is a lot more cheaper places, but they don't have the infrastructure. A lot of people want to move construction into India, but India doesn't have the infrastructure and won't have for like decades, 2 decades, because it's like physical world. And it's the same with engineers. Just having like the low-cost labor, it's useful, but as Mishu said, the customers wants to talk with people face to face still, even with the remote, like there is push against the remote work. But there is this shift from low cost, because Bulgaria 20 years ago, we were the low-cost destination. The reason why we had this boom here was we were low-cost. And during this time, we won't be the low-cost. If you're not the low-cost, you have to have other benefits. And being low-cost should help you build those benefits. And this is my advice for junior people. Use your advantage of being cheap to build other advantages, to move up the chain.
That's a great advice, yeah. Going back to this thing that previously the companies, like the factories, were working with a single developer, like, hey man, do for me this warehouse software or this accountant software, and someone sat for like 6 months in a row in his room or her room, and then produced in a stack of floppy disks the program. Then it changed, but probably it changed mostly because you don't hear now, hey, our program is done by Pesho. Use, for instance, some e-commerce software. How many times did you hear our online shop is created by Pesho? Most of the times it's created by Accenture, for instance. Why people would prefer Accenture as an enterprise instead of Pesho as a single developer? Because of trust. And it changed over the time to have more trust in bigger enterprises because they're less likely to hide somewhere. So why do you expect with the generative AI, again, the factories to gain trust once again into single persons? I don't expect it, honestly.
So there is another interesting consideration. What do you think on so-named citizen developers? Who will be more competitive? People with business analysis experience who will have the tooling and some not so deep level of technical knowledge, but good logic and good business analysis, or developers who will try to stay consultant and to go in the opposite direction?
I think that both will survive in the same time, because I would challenge, who do you need more, medical doctors or construction engineers? You need both, but they will need to interact, but their work will be most closely related. I think that AI tools and all this movement to make things easy for everyone is something that, again, the generalist role will be the most interesting, and it is today, because if you try to hire a person who is very good at technology and understands the latest trends, and in the same time is very good in business, startup and product management, there are not much people with this profile here. And companies need these people because there are new opportunities in all the areas in the world, everywhere, in pharmacy, in education, in whatever industry you have. And people who are capable to implement this are not here. In this room, you can technically implement, but you cannot write the assignment. You cannot raise money for this assignment. How many of you have raised money for a product? Not much. This will improve over the time. Most of you will do this in 10 years and will work more closely on the business side. And previously, after developer, you become a senior developer, later you become a manager, and later you are Outlook developer, which means that you only read emails and response. But now it will move. You will work more closely with the customers, and your technical backgrounds will help a lot. This is your future in 10 years or 15.
Yeah, just one data entry point about that. I agree with this. It was like six years ago, there was this trend of no code that was going to replace all developers, that the business people would just use those no code tools to replace us. This was like the trend 6 years ago that was going to remove the developers. And those tools are awesome. Actually, I use them every day because I need to do some business stuff time to time before the fun part. And there is a lot of value of having like different people have the different qualities. And I think there will always be places where it's just a tool. Is it Excel or is it VS Code? Again, those are just tools.
Martin, we are talking about citizen developers and developers who are actually coming from industry. The point is, who you think will be more competitive in modern consulting role? People who have good business analysis skills and using AI tools to make some automation, some implementation, or core developers who are trying to switch to consultant role?
People who can speak.
Type it.
You need to be well articulated, not like I am right now.
I think that you say indirectly your preferences. Yeah, Ivan, you want?
Yeah, I would say that a mediocre role can only survive if there are less mediocre roles support that. So it's not possible a society to be constructed only by mediocreness. Someone should exploit it, otherwise it's not going to happen. So there should be some great exploiter above it that says, okay, I'm fine to have millions of mediocre specialists. So probably in order to, your job, you to survive as a mediocre specialist is because many like you survived, but they retained better quality in their job. So don't strive to mediocreness, because if everyone in the room do it, there will be no better quality person in the room, and then nobody's gonna be able to exploit your mediocreness. Then nobody will want your labor, and then your profession will die. That's my 20 cents on that topic. And Misha, don't you think that probably we should involve the...
Yeah, I have one more interesting, at least for me, topic, and after that we will have interaction with other people. Well, there is interesting trend. The trend is that now AI is stay less precise and less correctness on account of simplification, how to work with this. I can make some example with, for example, OpenAI. Do you know which one of the models is the most precise from all GPT models? Yeah, okay.
4.
Why?
So what is your point then, Misha? Tell us.
Well, after that, 4.0 is less precise. It is focused on some different things to make easier for people to be onboarded. And also, now GPT-01 is even less precise, but can solve more complex cases explained in a relatively random way to can understand us better.
I mean, O1 is less precise because it uses like a different way of reasoning with like multiple loops, and the 4.1 also depends on actually how many GPUs are actually used for the inference. Like a lot of the models are getting dumber in quotes because resource constraining the computational power to process them. Like somebody was exactly training this with like llama models, but they all kind of work similarly. It's like, oh, I would give it more time to the GPU, more resources, it actually gives me better answers, because sometimes those models actually, it's important how much power you give it. Like a lot of the precision and a lot of the stuff actually comes from like how do you tune the model based on like being used, and a lot of the time the precision is decreased in terms of, oh, we need to run it cheaper because, oh my God, we're spending billions of dollars for GPUs.
Yeah, I think I raised the question now, but is there anyone that wants to speak on the same topic before I ask the question?
Okay, just to close this topic, the point is that now AI is going in direction to make the learning curve smaller and easier, because we reach the situation where you have OpenAI and some kind of AI as a service like commodity. But to make something more, you need to have a lot of extra effort to ask for some more complex cases, to optimize something. And the learning curve with this stay extremely high, and it is not payback. So now direction is to simplify the way how we interact with AI, to simplify the way how to integrate it, even on account of some lower correctness and some other parameters. And this is a trend during the last year that maybe will continue a little more to be possible people and businesses to adopt faster and easier AI. So now it's time for questions, or?
I will start with the first question and then we'll give the audience the opportunity. So the first question to all of you is this one. Let's go back to the generative AI in JavaScript or inside the programming. First programs in the beginning of the computing were some programs that you input some, let's say, perfocart or whatever it's called, and it calculates something and gives you the output. So no external data was taken into account. Then data was started to be collected, then it should be managed. It was extremely hard to manage it in a good way, but sometimes these data storages appeared, databases as you know it currently, and most of the applications are data-driven. Will there be a time that most of the applications will use data not from a database as we know it, but from a AI models instead? What do you think, guys? It's a no here.
No, I mean, even right now, they need RAG in order to be useful. Like, every model needs some kind of data to get in. And again, also, if you think about it, a lot of those models is actually compression of data. So in some ways, a model and their embedding structures is basically a database, just compressed. So they would need, Oracle would still have a job.
So Oracle will have a job to support AI tools instead of support you directly. That seems is a good vector for them. Settle?
I think the data will be mixed. You will usually take some input from your organization, from your business case, and combine it with some input from OpenAI, for example. So many things come. Oh, Martin says that precision comes with volume. So bigger data gives you better results, but collecting data is a different story, which...
That's correct, but in general, OpenAI is just another kind of technology. AI is just another kind of technology without data.
Yes, and I think that developers try to use AI the developer way, to integrate some API, a new library, etc. But it's about the data science. It's about collecting data. It's about training models. It's about testing these models. It's about fixing the problems that these models do. And this is certainly done just by a few players, typically. OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. But in the real world, you don't have a normal models. For example, in a factory, you want to see who is without a helmet. And this is computer vision problem, AI problem. And developers will just take the API from Azure, will put it, and they will say, I'm done. Okay, but this doesn't work well because it makes problems. You need to fine-tune the cameras, and you need to debug this. How to debug AI algorithms like this. You collect the situations where the output is not good, and you additionally fine-tune with this particular, in my factory, with this camera, with this. And one of the problems is that you put the camera on a place where the wind moves it, for example.
Or give them red helmets.
Or red helmets may not work. So the AI, in the AI era, we need different way of thinking. It's, again, about debugging, about using KPIs. You will not write your own machine learning algorithm, but you will need to talk with the management to give you access to collect data, to prepare data, because in many situations you don't need the right tool. Azure claims that they have everything, but they don't have it.
People started to fall asleep, so I would suggest to involve the audience.
Questions?
Somebody to give them a mic, yeah, please, Mishu. So now Mishu will go to traverse the room instead of sitting to us. Bye, Mishu.
Thank you. So my question is in basically everything that you've said, the assumption that Gen AI and LLM are here to stay is baked into it. I understand the value proposition, I use it, although not too much to be honest, but there's some serious concerns about whether or not this is sustainable at all. For example, you know, people say technology doesn't go back. That's not true. Take the Concorde plane. Take nuclear lighthouses, stuff like this, it just goes away. So we have several things that are completely untested with regards to Gen AI LLM. Like, for example, first of all, economic viability is still a question. Like, does it produce enough value to be worth it? Right now, this is heavily subsidized by investment, but investment is not a sustainable model, right? Second, we have the price of data that's going to go higher, because up until now, people volunteered their data to the internet with the assumption that you're going to compete against another guy. You know, I don't have to worry if I'm better than the rest of the guys. Or gals, of course. Apologies for assumptions. But the point is that from now on, like, I don't know if you've taken a look, open source repositories, the amount that have been created have fallen significantly. It might be reasonable to assume that developers have changed behavior. Nowadays, open source will be used to fire you. If I do a good job in my open source community-driven projects, that means the day after tomorrow, I might find myself without a job. So what are your thoughts essentially on this? And are you certain that it's going to succeed, or did you just consider that tangent more interesting? Thank you.
You cannot stop the forest from... So it's already deeply invested by the whole world, sorry to say. And yeah, you have right examples for things that did not succeed or were just reverted. But currently, AI is deeply invested in companies that will never gonna let it go, like NVIDIA, for instance. They're major players into that, and with the capitalization that they have, there is no reason for them to let it go in the next, I don't know, 100 years. So even if it's something that's not going to succeed, probably we will not understand whether it will succeed or not in our entire lives. And the bubble burst, that's your point.
My point is that from the perspective that I'm having, it feels like we're in a bubble. And that bubble is powered by AI. So far, I think that's not particularly controversial.
Yeah, I mean, bubbles are great because, I mean, after .com, actually pets.com lives now. Like you can get all the stuff they added, Web1. Like that's the thing. Right now, we are building a lot of infrastructure. We are building a lot of knowledge. The prices are going up. Right now, a lot of the expensive part of those models is they are being trained, cost billions. Also, the inference is another thing that would go away. But during this bubble, yeah, it would burst. There would be pain. Like Nvidia, most probably their stock would be in a very weird place in a weird time. But all the stuff we're going to build as infrastructure, as knowledge, hopefully as nuclear power plants to power all that stuff, is going to stay. And the second, third, fourth generation would actually have a lot of value. So the .com blow up, but all the fibers is still powering the internet to this day. A lot of the frameworks, a lot of the knowledges, a lot of the stuff is still here. So it's here to stay. Like .com is a very great example. Yeah, there is challenges, there is bugs, there is things, but usually stuff just stays. It's just after the hype, you need this hump of like excitement, insanity, people investing too much money in order to move forward.
I will be the voice for Martin, and he says that AI is about making technology accessible for less savvy users, and this is why it's getting embedded into operating systems, in the mobile phones, and everywhere, and it may not work for everyone and everything, which supports the idea of having a bubble. Which I personally also agree that there is always, when some industry grows, there are bubbles for two reasons. One is that some people just want to make some money, and the other is that few people are believers of something which is not possible. They believe that blockchain someday will destroy. Even I was in this bubble at some point. It will replace the currency system, which will never happen. But some things from blockchain remained, and they do their job, but not everything.
Yeah, just a final point, and just to build on what Svetlin said to the voice of Chawov, is don't think what we have now as LLMs as a chat UI is going to stay. Most of those things will be embedded in different places. Like the way I see the chat apps is like the terminals from the early 50s. I mean, I'm a Vim user, still use terminal, but I'm an expert user. Great Vim user, by the way. But the Gen AI features would be here, and they would just become features. Like having a semantic search would basically become like a standard for your application.
What we are trying to say is that some technologies can be not successful because of different reasons, can be not at the right time, in the right place, and also if they cannot bring enough value to the business to be beneficial, they will be not successful. But after time, we will use in one or another way these technologies. And you're absolutely right. AI is overestimated. We now have a lot of options to solve problems with AI, but most of the business is not ready to implement it. So it is not clear if currently offered technologies will stay in this way. Maybe there will be AI winter, maybe not. It is something that is trade-off, but in the future we will get the benefit from this technology. So yeah, this is the real world, this is our life.
So the audience once again, I believe. No more questions? I don't believe that. Yeah, a mic for you? Yeah, it's coming.
Мерси. Ще си задам на въпроса на български.
Да.
Чувствам се по-спокойно така. Какъв е шансът според вас компаниите, които използват Gen AI генерално, да станат проксита всъщност на големите провайдери на изкуствен интелект? Защото в крайна сметка интеграцията на
GenAI във всяка една IT компания я прави зависима от провайдера на GenAI.
What are the chances? So the question was in English. What are the chances all the companies that use GenAI APIs to provide some service to be just proxies to, let's say, OpenAI or the vendor of the AI? Pretty big